Hi, Jody. Good morning. Hi, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the contributors to, hiatal hernia to help you better understand why you have hiatal hernia and GERD and LPR. Because it's my belief that if we can have a better understanding of the root cause of our conditions, if we can have a better understanding of our anatomy, really get to know our condition, get to know our hernia, then that's just going to put us on the right path to healing if we better understand our condition. So I've got 10 things I'm going to share today that are contributors or causes of hiatal hernia and GERD. But before I do, I want to encourage you, if you appreciate this content and you want to share it out to others, go ahead and hit the share button. If you want to share it in any of your groups, any of your support groups, I'm here to help people, inspire them to start their own healing journey. And so the more people I can, get this message in front of, the bigger my audience is, the more people I can potentially inspire to begin their own healing journey. So if you hit the share button, I'd really appreciate that. So let's get started, and at the end of this live, I'm going to lead a short, I'm going to introduce another one of my exercises and just do a short little tutorial on that. It's probably the exercise that I used the most in a pinch. Jody says no connection, Pam. Let's see here. Sorry to hear that, Jody. It looks like it's good on my end. I'm getting your message, so we're connecting somehow. So this exercise I'm going to do at the end is the exercise that I used in a pinch. In other words, I would use it if I was sitting at my desk at work. I would use it if I was driving in the car. I would use it to get instant relief from my symptoms. And this is something that I used a lot to move my stomach down, but I also used it a lot as maintenance to keep it down. So I'll share that with you at the end. And keep in mind that everybody is different. I get so tired of hearing that phrase, but it is so true. Everyone is different. Everybody's hernia is different. Everybody reacts differently to different things. So that's why it's important to try different things. Hey, Wendy from the UK. Awesome. Glad you're joining us this morning. It's so cool to be able to come on here and broadcast live and know that people are watching from all over the world. It's kind of weird, actually, but it's really cool. So, so the number one... So I'm going to start now, begin with the 10 reasons we can have a hiatal hernia, GERD, LPR. And by the way, you can have a hiatal hernia and not have GERD. You can have GERD and not have a hiatal hernia. Oftentimes we have both. Again, everybody's different, and it's a really strange thing that you could have. I could see how you could have GERD and not have hiatal hernia, but some people, some of you lucky people, actually have hiatal hernia, but you don't have any symptoms. You don't have any GERD. So... So yeah, everybody's different. Jody has a black screen here with a loading pattern. You guys, shoot me some hearts if you can see me. I guess if you can just hear me, that's better than nothing. Try rebooting it, Jody. See if that helps. Refresh your page. I'm not getting any hearts. So you guys just getting audio? Okay, so some of you can see me. All right, so I'm going to move on. And Jody, I hope that you can refresh your page and be able to catch this live. If not, maybe you can catch it on the replay. Okay, so yeah, some people have GERD and LPR without a hiatal hernia. Some people have hiatal hernia without any symptoms. So everybody's different. It really just comes down to your anatomy and how it sits, where there is pressure, where there isn't pressure. So how healthy your gut flora is, how strong your acid secretions are. So when we talk about acid secretions in the gut, I'm talking about the hydrochloric acid that your body produces to break down food. I'm not talking about acidic foods that we eat. There's a big distinction there. But if you have low stomach acid and it's not able to fully digest those foods, then those foods are moving through your system quite slowly. They're putrefacting, they're fermenting, and then there can be a lot of gas and bloating, which can put pressure on your hernia. So there are a lot of different factors that can go into this. A lot of different factors. All right, so let's get started. So number one is congenital. So some people are born with a hiatal hernia. Some people develop them very early in life. Sometimes in utero, the hiatus doesn't fully form into a nice, small, tight hole. Maybe it's, you know, it's just kind of wide, and so the stomach has room. A little bit of pressure will push that up and herniate it. And so if you have a congenital hiatal hernia, I mean, don't just decide, oh, well, I've had it my whole life, there's nothing I can do. There are still things that you can do. Okay, but unfortunately some people have had this their entire life, or are even born with it. Number two is genetics, and same thing. If hiatal hernias or GERD runs in your family, don't just decide, oh, well, it runs in my family, there's nothing I can do. The famous words of Dr. Neil Barnard, he always says this, and I love it, and that's that genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. Genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So there are things, in other words, that we can do, even if we have a genetic predisposition to any condition. There are always things that we can do with our lifestyle to help improve that condition, or even to help, you know, get rid of that condition altogether. We just have to educate ourselves, and we have to try. Okay? So, but they run in my family as well. I think just about everyone in my family has a hiatal hernia. So number three is trauma. So we can get a hiatal hernia as a result of some sort of trauma. So if you're ever in some type of an accident, you know, a car accident, a fall from a high place where you landed on your chest, if you were in a high impact sport and had, you know, impact to your chest, there are a lot of different things that can cause an injury to your diaphragm. And what happens again when we have an injury, the body floods that injury with what's needed to begin the healing process. Then we have inflammation, and then we have healing. And when we have healing, we usually have some type of scar tissue, or a new adhesion, new attachments. And so with a hiatus in that diaphragm, if we have an injury and then it heals, it might heal in a way that that hiatus is not, you know, able to fully perform optimally. So also surgery, if you've ever had any type of surgery, that can affect the effectiveness of the diaphragm. If you've had, so yeah, you get the picture. All right, so moving on, number four are some of these diet-related things that I've already talked about quite a bit since I started doing these live videos last week. So things like bloating, inflammation, and constipation, all oftentimes can be extremely diet-related. And so you can imagine, you guys, I have a new balloon today. I was shooting a video for my course yesterday, and my balloon popped, which is like the third balloon I've popped, so I've got a towel here. So you can imagine if you have bloating, if this is your stomach and it's bloated with gas, how much pressure that would put on your lower esophageal sphincter. So that's one. And then all you have to do is think about your abs. When you pull your abs in, like let's say when you bear down to pass a bowel movement, you can feel all of that pressure of your abs pulling in and pushing your stomach up. So again, constipation, extremely diet related, and that's a lot of force pushing your stomach up. And then inflammation. If you have any gut issues, any gastric conditions, any inflammatory bowel disease, all of that inflammation causes the tissues to be swollen and tender and not able to fully function optimally. And so again, for many people, simply cleaning up your diet is going to remedy many of these things. It's at least going to help you start your healing journey. It might not, it might not fix it overnight, but by going on a whole foods plant-based diet, that's going to begin to really heal the gut, and give you a really good foundation for reversing your hiatal hernia. Okay. So number 5 is tight clothing. That's kind of a no-brainer, but if you're wearing, for women who wear pantyhose or Spanx or any type of tummy control where it's going to, really pull that stomach in and hold it in all day long, that is just constant pressure pushing on that stomach and causing it to just, you know, squeeze it and put pressure on all kinds of things, and then push it up into the diaphragm and eventually up through the hiatus. So so that's an easy fix. You know, stop wearing tight clothing, wear loose fitting clothing. And that for men too, if you're wearing a tight belt, yeah, so that's kind of an easy fix. The next one is posture. So, you know, if you work at a computer all day and you're slouched over like this, if you drive, you know, in a car all day and you're slouched over like this, hi darling, that posture, you can see how that squishes the organs in the abdominal cavity. So, so beginning to really focus on your posture, sitting up straight, lifting your rib cage. Your rib cage is attached to your diaphragm, so every time we lift our rib cage by sitting up straight, that pulls the diaphragm up. Okay, and if you can combine that with learning how to relax your abs, your abdominal muscles, then the diaphragm comes up and the stomach can come down, because the abs are no longer pushing it up, so the stomach can come down and create a little bit of space. I was listening to somebody in a forum share how she just lifted her hands up over her head. And what this does, I can feel my diaphragm lifting up right now. I get a little nervous when I do these lives, and I begin to pull in my abs, and I can start to feel that little bit of, for me, my own symptomaticness, my own kind of little bit of indigestion feeling. So just by lifting those arms up, that lifts that rib cage up. And I know some people, and relaxing the abs, some people can't do this. It's very, very painful when that diaphragm pulls up and that stomach is, you know, stuck in there, and then the diaphragm is pulling up and those tenders are already tender. So, so for some people, they can't even do this, and I understand that. So maybe you could try just doing a little bit, just arching the back, lifting the rib cage, or just, you know, lifting partially. So it's something you can try, but just certainly focusing on your posture, beginning to focus on your posture, lifting your rib cage, relaxing your belly is something you need to get into the habit of. Okay, so next are things that cause a lot of force on our stomachs, such as sneezing. So I'm talking about like frequent sneezing, somebody with allergies, coughing, somebody who coughs a lot, or vomiting, frequent vomiting. So all of these things cause our abs to constrict. Every time we sneeze, the abs constrict. Every time we cough, the abs constrict. I mean, have you guys ever had like a really bad cold and you just had like coughing fits that you couldn't get under control, and your whole abdominal wall was just aching because it was just squeezing and contracting every time you coughed? Well, so if you're chronic at any of these things, then that is contributing to your hiatal hernia. That is contributing to your GERD, because all of that force of your abs pushing up is pushing that stomach up, creating its new location, its new home up and adhered under the diaphragm. We talked about the peritoneum last week and how those connections, new connections will form. Your stomach wants to hang out down here. It wants to hang out down here. But all that force will squeeze it up, and it'll create new connections up under the diaphragm where it always has pressure on it, and it can't fully, you know, relax. And then if it's herniated, then it gets new connections up into the hiatus. So if this applies to, if you have frequent sneezing, coughing, or vomiting, you've got to get this under control. And again, a plant-based diet can be very, very beneficial for all of these things, to begin the healing process of all of these things. And I'm not going to get into why today, because I do have to go to work and I want to stay focused on these 10 things. But you can look further into that on your own, or you can stay tuned, or you can ask questions. I might do a specific video on that later. So the next one is overcrowding. So we can have overcrowding for a number of reasons. Being overweight, overcrowding. We have within the abdominal cavity, we have an organ known as the omentum, and that omentum is a sheet of fat, and it's important. It has a function, but in a lean person, it's a small, thin sheet of fat, and in the larger you are, the bigger that bulk of fat is. And so in an obese person, it's a very big bundle of fat. And so that's one thing that can cause, simply by being, you know, overweight or obese, can cause that overcrowding. not to mention the additional, abdominal fat, organ fat that is present in a person who is obese. So again, and I know, just go lose some weight. I mean, that's not something I would ever tell somebody to do. I know that can be difficult. But I promote and encourage people to try plant-based nutrition, try it for 30 days and find out that it's not as hard as it seems, find out that it can be enjoyable and delicious, and find out that it promotes healing, and not to mention weight loss if you've got weight to lose. So also with overcrowding, if you have any type of, growths, if you have tumors, that's something we don't always know about. If it's a benign tumor, we may have it our whole life and not know about it. But if you have a large tumor, whether it's abdominal or, down lower in the reproductive system, and there's inflammation. Good, Jody. I'm glad you can see me. How are you, my friend? I'm sorry you missed it. You can go back and catch it on the replay. So yeah, any type of growth is going to cause that overcrowding as well. And then just things like, binge eating. So in other words, when you eat everything in sight to the point where your stomach is so expanded and blown up that it's causing that overcrowding. And then not to mention, bloating, we already talked about that, but that can cause overcrowding as well. Being backed up, having constipation, we already talked about that, but if you're really backed up and the intestines and the digestive tract is full and backed up, that can cause, food is meant to move through the digestive system pretty quickly. It's not meant to sit around for days and days and days. Okay, so if you're eating foods that are really slowing down digestion, you might want to try, doing, a 30-day plant-based challenge. Really heal the gut, get that digestive moving at a faster pace. Doesn't mean you have to stay on the diet forever. You may decide you want to after you discover how enjoyable it is, discover how good you feel, those kinds of things. So thanks for the love, Jody. Jody recently went on a plant-based diet and she's really enjoying it. So, okay, so overcrowding. Next is heavy lifting. So anytime we lift something heavy, that activates our abdominal muscles. And again, that puts pressure on the stomach. So Renata says, I'm skinny, but I have hernia, but I think I eat too much at once. Yeah, a lot of people are very lean and thin and have hiatal hernia. Hiatal hernia does not distinguish between, different sized people. Anybody can have one. Young, old, big, small, it really doesn't matter. People with a really healthy diet can have hiatal hernia. Typically, like for me, when I was diagnosed with my hiatal hernia, I came from an unhealthy diet. I thought it was healthy. It wasn't. I came from an unhealthy diet where I ate a lot of dairy, began to eat plant-based, which really, really helped my condition, but it didn't fix it. So an actual hiatal hernia is a mechanical issue where the stomach is stuck in the diaphragm. And so getting that stomach down can take time and action. We have to learn how to relax the belly, so that gives that stomach room to move down. We need to begin to break up the peritoneum, those adhesions, so the stomach isn't attached up into the diaphragm. We need to learn how to breathe, so we're using our full range of motion with our diaphragm, so the diaphragm is going all the way up and all the way down. These are things that we can practice with exercise and meditative practice. But yeah, any size person can have a hiatal hernia. But Renato says that eating too much at once can cause you to be symptomatic. Yeah, definitely, because when you have a portion of your stomach above the diaphragm here, and then you're eating really, really fast, and that food is trying to make it through this tiny little hole here, where everything is, there's pressure there, where the diaphragm is, where the hiatus is, and it's trying to empty into this part of the stomach, but this is what's filling up, and this is what's expanding. Remember, your stomach has stretch. It can really stretch out. And so, eating fast and filling this little guy up quickly can cause you to be symptomatic very fast. So for those of us with hiatal hernia, it is very important to chew our food, chew your food so that it can move through there without so much compromise and eat slowly, so that gives that time to move down. Jody says, best thing I ever did, plant-based all the way. I have healed all my chronic symptoms before I have a diagnosis. Wow, that's cool. I know. I popped one of these yesterday when I was shooting a video for my online course, and it went everywhere. Luckily, it didn't get on my hard drive, so that was good. Okay, so yeah, but getting back to heavy lifting, when we lift heavy, we squeeze our abs, and that puts pressure on the stomach. So, you know, if you have a job where you're having to lift heavy things all of the time, you know, you may need to take a break from that. Okay, I'll get to you later, Bonnie. When I read through the comments, I will address your comment because it's long. I see the see more button, so I'm going to move on. The next one is, going back to overcrowding. You can include, when I was talking about overcrowding of the abdominal cavity, you can certainly include pregnancy in that. So for many women who've had especially multiple pregnancies, they start to develop their hiatal hernia after pregnancy. And again, that stomach is going to get pushed up into the diaphragm during your pregnancy for, you know, probably the last, you know, especially 3 to 4 months of your pregnancy, where, you know, there's a lot of abdominal crowding. That stomach is going to be pushed down, your bladder is going to get pushed down, it's going to create new attachments deep down in the pelvic floor. And so then when you have your baby, if that stomach doesn't have time to heal and move back down, if your bladder doesn't have time to, you know, find the original locations and create those healthy attachments, now they've created new attachments in their new location. And so we can have things like hiatal hernia, we can have things like incontinence. So that healing phase after pregnancy is really, really important. And unfortunately, we aren't given very much or any instruction on how we can heal properly. And so if you are, you know, if you are a woman who's had pregnancies or you just had a pregnancy, I hope you'll check out my course when I finally launch it. Oh my gosh, you guys, that thing, I swear I'm never going to get it done. I had a meeting with my lawyer yesterday and I have to change a bunch of stuff, so I don't know. I keep saying another week, but we'll see. But anyway, there are things that you can do to begin to move that stomach back down, learn how to retrain yourself how to breathe, relax the belly, so that that stomach has room to hang out right where it's meant to be and not have pressure on it all of the time, creating those new attachments. So the last thing I want to talk about, number 10, is something I already have talked about and mentioned several times, and that is abdominal contraction or abdominal constriction. In other words, pulling in your abs. So we do this for a number of reasons. And yeah, I've already talked about this, but it's really, really important, and I think it's important enough to revisit and to repeat over and over and over. And if you end up buying my course, you'll hear me say it over and over and over, because this is something we really have to get. This is one of those things that's really easy to be like, oh yeah, that doesn't matter. Oh yeah, that's insignificant. But this is really, really important. So our abdominal wall, this is a wall of muscles here. And we contract those muscles for a number of reasons. We contract them just daily, just doing what we do. Our core is very important in sitting, standing, you know, jumping, running, pulling, climbing, stretching, all of that. The core is always being activated. But that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, you need to use your stomach muscles. Yes, you need to strengthen your stomach muscles. But the rest of the time, we need to relearn how to relax our stomach muscles. So muscles have 3 primary functions. They contract, they stretch, and they relax. And you've probably all heard of muscle memory, but muscle memory really just boils down to the ability for the muscle to remember how to do any of those things. And a healthy muscle needs to be able to do all of those things. It needs to be able to contract, it needs to be able to stretch, and it needs to be able to relax. So if you're a person like I was, where I was always contracting my stomach muscles, I mean, not 24/7, but just about, because my muscle memory forgot how to stretch and relax those abs, because I was always contracting my abs for a couple of reasons. One is I learned at an early age, I was taught at an early age to pull in my stomach, to sit up straight and pull in my stomach. Why? To have good posture and to look thin. I was also taught at an early age from several exercise instructors. Anytime I did an exercise class, whether it was aerobics, jazzercise, yoga, anything. I mean, how many times have you guys been in an exercise class? How many of you are exercise instructors yourselves who have said this? Pull in your abs, hold in those abs. It's not necessary to pull in and hold in your abs. And in fact, when you do, it puts a lot of pressure on your gastric system. You might not think it does, but it does. It puts a lot of force on that system. Also, if those muscles are constantly being contracted, they forget how to stretch and they forget how to relax. So what happens to a muscle when it never stretches? What happens as we get older and we become less active and we stop stretching and using our muscles? What happens to us? We become inflexible, right? So if we become inflexible, that means our muscles have lost their memory to be flexible, to be able to stretch. The same goes for abdominal wall, for these muscles. So we have to retrain those muscles how to be able to stretch and how to be able to relax. And trust me, for me, this has been a real challenge. My muscles are trying to tense up right now. Why? Because your abdominal muscles will contract just as in a response to stress. I mean, how many times have you noticed your shoulders get tense or your jaw get tense in a reaction to something irritating, something scary, something worrisome, something, urgent? Our muscles contract in a response to stress. And so it's up to us to learn how to be able to respond to that stress appropriately. You know what I mean? It's up to us to be able to respond by noticing that we're having this response and then learning how to relax. And so a meditative practice comes in really handy with training ourselves how to relax the muscles, slow the breath, so that the muscles aren't so tense. How many times have you been cold? For those of you that are older, this doesn't happen for a lot of people who are younger, but I noticed as I got older and I would be just cold, all of my muscles would tense up just because you're cold and you're trying to get warm. So this abdominal contraction or abdominal sucking in the gut is something that you really, if you have hiatal hernia or GERD, you've got to retrain yourself to stop doing that. And so I want to challenge you today to really start paying attention when you're symptomatic, when you're stressed. Ask yourself, what are my abs doing right now? And you may find that they, just by relaxing your belly, taking some slow breaths, sit up straight, let your diaphragm rise up by taking a deep breath, or that's when it comes down. You take a deep breath and then fully deflate the lungs and really relax those abs. Jody's giving me a lot of love right now. She says the biggest relief for her hernia has been relaxing her abs. And I hear this from a lot of people. In fact, yesterday I was shooting a video for my course and a comment came across on the computer from a YouTube viewer that said the same exact thing. She couldn't believe how much relief she got from her symptom just by relaxing her abs. For some people, just by relaxing the abs, and gravity gives the stomach, relaxing the abs gives the stomach room to move down, and then gravity will just help that to kind of slip down and take that little bit of pressure off of whatever it is that's giving you symptoms, whether it's your lower esophageal sphincter, whether it's your diaphragm, your heart, your lungs, your vagus nerve, whatever that is. And again, it's going to be different for everybody. For some people, you're going to relax your abs and you're not going to get any relief. For some, you are. Again, we have those attachments. That peritoneum creates new attachments. The longer your stomach has been up and in that herniated position, and the stronger your peritoneum and the more attachments it's created, the longer it's going to take you to really get that stomach to move down. But it really, it starts with good diet, healing the gut, and relaxing the abs. So before I get going here today, I'm going to teach you an exercise that I call rib roll, and it's very foundational to my course. Basically, comments are covering my screen. You want to find, now remember, this is my left side. My phone reverses everything. This is my left side. So you want to come to your left side and find your rib cage and sit up tall. If you're able, sit up tall and relax your belly. And if you're able, put a little bit of arch in your back, and that will lift your rib cage up a little bit more. Remember, we're trying to get that diaphragm to move up a little bit. So only if this is comfortable, arch your back a little bit to lift your rib cage up. If you want to come into a reclining position, that will help lift your rib cage up as well. But find your left rib cage and really relax the abs. Okay, and you can place one hand on your rib, place your left hand on your rib cage, place your right hand on your belly, and just really focus and connect with your belly and look for any tension in your abs and relax it. Because when we do this rib roll exercise, relaxing the abs is key to this exercise. So really take a moment, breathe into the belly. As you breathe in, feel your belly button pushing your hand out. Feel your belly expanding like a balloon as you breathe in, and then as you exhale, really fully deflate. That means blow all the air out. Keep blowing all the air out until it's all out. Don't pull your abs in at any time, because that's what that's doing, is bringing your diaphragm up, up, up. When you deflate, the diaphragm keeps coming up as long as you're blowing that air out. So we're trying to create separation. Diaphragm and stomach separate. Diaphragm comes up, stomach comes down. So in your comfortable position, with your belly relaxed, you've located your ribs, and you can take both of your hands now and come over and just find that bottom rib. You don't have to push on it or poke on it. And when you arch your back, that pushes those ribs up, and you can feel them a little bit better if you're having trouble locating and finding your ribs. Just depending on how much abdominal fat you have can mean it's easier or harder to find your ribs. But you just want to find that bottom rib. And then once you've located it, you're going to roll your fingers over the ribs. So I like to just use, like if this was my ribs, I find my ribs, I touch that bottom rib, and then I roll my fingers over it. Just roll over it. So now my fingers are underneath the ribs. And if this is painful, you can stop, but you can try relocating. So try moving further left away from your hernia. For some of you, this is a very, very tender spot. And so what we're trying to do in rib roll is push the stomach down a little bit and create a little bit of space. And then you breathe deeply as you relax the belly. Again, the diaphragm's going to move up. We're pushing that stomach down, creating a little bit of space and trying to move that stomach down. For some people, that's going to unherniate it, and for some people, this may take weeks before you really get that movement, because you're beginning to stretch up and break up that peritoneum. But your stomach sits, kind of here on the left side, and it kind of curves down and towards the right. And your esophagus shoots out like this and comes up through the hiatus. So it's a pipe that comes out like this. But over here on the stomach, you have, this isn't the best example because it's a balloon, but you have here what's known as the greater curvature, this long, round curve. And up here on the top is what's known as the fundus. And so that's what we're trying to grab. We're trying to roll our fingers over and put a little bit of pressure on that fundus, relax the belly, take some deep breaths where the belly is expanding. And so then when the diaphragm is moving up and down, your hernia is stuck in there, so it's going to ride with it. But if you're putting pressure over here on that fundus, that's going to push that stomach down. As you're relaxing your abs, that's going to give it room to move down. And as the diaphragm moves up now, you're going to start to create that little bit of separation. So let's just do it together. We find our rib, we roll our fingers over. If that is painful, try moving down a little bit and away from your hernia. So move your fingers down a little bit. Relax the belly. You don't have to push in really deep. If that's painful, try easing up a little bit and not pushing so hard. If this makes you nauseous, it's probably because you're pushing on that hernia, so get a little bit further away from it by coming down. So you can kind of feel around with this and find a comfortable place. But once you've found an okay place, relax the belly and take some deep breaths. So you breathe in, expand the belly. Again, really opening that belly up like a balloon. Imagine your belly button is just pushing outward, and then exhale, relax. You want to relax your shoulders and fully deflate. Inhale, expand your belly. Exhale, fully deflate. Relax your jaw. Fully deflate. If you want to reposition your hands because that hurts, or maybe it's making you more symptomatic, go ahead and do so, or really just lighten up. You don't have to press really deep. Inhale, expand the belly. Imagine that a belly button, pressing the skin out. Exhale, fully deflate, deflate, really deflate, blow all the air in, blow all the air out, never pull the abs in, keep relaxing the belly. Really bring your focus to the abs. Inhale, expand the belly. Exhale, deflate. Really bring your focus to your abs. Look for tension. Really relax it. Really relax it. Blow out all the air. Blow out all the air. So this is something that you can try, you know, as a meditative practice. Do it, you know, do it for, you know, 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, I'll get to your question, Teresa. It's a long one, so it's not showing the whole thing. Okay, so practice that for, you know, 5 minutes and do it every day. And hopefully that will begin to, again, that pressure on the stomach is pushing it down. As the diaphragm is going up and down, it's creating that separation. Begin to get that movement. For me, this took several weeks. I think about 3 weeks before I really was able to start to get relief from my symptoms. And then I was able to really just come into this position when I was driving, relax my abs and hold that and breathe. When I was sitting at my desk, when I was lying in bed, when I was watching TV, I was able to get relief from my symptoms in seconds from this. Once I was able to, you know, effectively get my stomach to move down. So those are a couple of things you can try. Lifting your diaphragm if that's comfortable for you, and applying pressure on that fundus while you relax the belly and do some deep breathing. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. For those of you who catch it on the replay, hello, thank you for joining me. I wish you all the best, and I'll be back here tomorrow morning about 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. Bonnie asks, does all yogurt have probiotics in them? I eat Yoplait yogurt. It seems to help. Or is this all in my head? Thanks. Does all yogurt have probiotics? Well, yeah, it does, but I mean, are they all created equally? No. You know, there are some yogurts that have more strains of bacteria in them than others. Some yogurts that have a lot more sugar in them than others. I mean, if it helps, if you're doing anything that helps, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Although, you know, dairy has been found to be a big culprit in hiatal hernia because it can cause bloating. But, I mean, that doesn't apply to everybody. Some people are very many people are very lactose intolerant and they can't handle it. But when it comes to yogurt, a lot of times even people who are lactose intolerant can tolerate a little bit of yogurt. So no, it's not in your head. I'd say if it's helping. If that's helping you, though, Bonnie, I would investigate other sources of fermented foods. You know, are you taking a probiotic? Do you like kombucha? Have you had your stomach acid, have you investigated your stomach acid levels? So for many people with gastric issues, one can be an unbalanced gut flora, and so that's why these, you know, probiotics or foods rich in bacteria, fermented foods can be helpful to begin to restore and create diversity in the gut flora, which is really important for gut healing and for your health in general. But also, many people have low stomach acid. They have low stomach acid. Again, there's a difference between your actual stomach acid that's in your gut and acidic foods that you're eating. When we eat those acidic foods, if we have low stomach acid and there's not enough stomach acid to break down that food, that can slow your digestion and cause bloating, which can exacerbate your hiatal hernia. So it's really important to get healing in the gut if you need to do so. And it's really important to have a diversified gut flora. And it's really important to do whatever you can to minimize bloating. Okay? So foods rich in fermented foods are a good way to do that. If you're ever concerned about, Bonnie, if you're concerned about, at all about dairy, there are non-dairy yogurts that are rich in probiotics. I can't think of the brands offhand. I typically don't eat them that often. Once in a while I will. I'll just feel like a yogurt and I might buy a non-dairy yogurt. So, all right, I hope that helps. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Have an amazing day. And don't forget to relax your belly.